Hello and welcome to a very special something different. I said I'd do more hobby videos and here we are. So first thing I'd like to say is if you're a person that's decided that you're just done with Games Workshop after what they've recently been doing and treating people with the price hikes, that does not make you a bigot in any way. It just means that you actually care and are tired of being mistreated. And that's an important thing in this, is that you're not a bad person for disagreeing. And I'd like to introduce some ways to handle it. So first I would say, do not leave the hobby. There's no reason for you to leave the hobby. Maintain your stuff. Only people who truly do not care about the hobby and despise you and want to cause you pain will encourage you to get rid of things that you cared about. You have every reason to continue to use and play with those items. It's your hobby, after all. You might as well continue it and create a community around it that enjoys the same things as you. So I would definitely say do not destroy your stuff, maintain it. Hey, if you have a pile of shame, put that thing to work. You don't need to spend another dime with Games Workshop, probably for years in a lot of cases. So I wanted to start with that so that I would immediately get that covered. We're not going to go into the controversy of any of that or any of the rest after this point. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, you are not a bad person if you just disagree with something. So let's get to the next part. Hey, here we go with the next part of it. So I'd like to talk about OnePage Rules, and in no way am I sponsored by anything, nor do I take sponsorships, just to clear that up right away. OnePage Rules is something I've tinkered with on and off over the years, and I think it's a good starting place if you're looking for something to get out of the rules. There's nothing wrong with continuing to use older editions, and I would encourage you to use those or to try this out. It covers a number of different types of Warhammer kind of games, from skirmish, main battle, to even, Battlefleet Gothic style of gameplay, alternatives to Warhammer Sigmar, and fantasy. So it covers all the bases in terms of rules. You can support their Patreon and get access to a number of SDLs monthly, to bigger, better versions of the rules, and you can get these printed off in a couple different places from what I know of. So you get rules, you get miniatures, you can have them printed off by different services, that's for one, and you can get a web-based army builder that's free. It's on their main page, and it can also, there's the ability to create an army on it, so you can do that as well. So it's basically a complete package in a lot of ways, and if you're trying to make the step away from Warhammer, but still be able to play something similar, use those miniatures you got, and foster a community that can have an easily gained set of rules that do get updated and has support, this is a good way to do it. So you don't have to give up $40,000 because you don't need Games Workshop. And this is one really good way to basically just kind of stop giving them money. And when they do things that you disagree with, and let's just be honest, even if you don't disagree with the lore, the prices are out of control. The bloat is out of control. This is a way to handle it in numerous ways. And it's usually fairly easy to get newer players in because you have the skirmish, you have the war game, and so on, all in one place, and an easy to use army builder. So I would definitely say this is one of the areas where I think people should investigate as at least a beginning step if you're not connected or hooked to one of the older rules. I personally like 3rd edition $40,000, but this is also a good one in my opinion. So I suggest this to people who want to make those first steps, and they might want to make a clean break while still being able to dip into the $40,000 lore, history, and just completely go, well, I don't need Games Workshop for $40,000. So let's move on to the next. So this would be just a couple options that I'm going to throw out there. So if you want to continue getting hard plastic, maybe you're not into 3D printing, there's War Games Atlantic. I'm going to screw that name up and I'm sorry. But they have a fairly decent number of ranges that they offer for decent prices. and they're all in hard plastic multi-part. I'd also suggest that people look into like Stargrave, but this is a really quick one. They have a couple different game systems that they kind of run things into, but this is a good spot because you're going to get a number of somewhat close to them or to stuff you've seen in 40K or could fit into that mold of 40K. So if you want to build something that's, let's just say maybe an Imperial Guard that likes a little bit of a Renaissance-y feel, or Napoleonic style feel, this is a good area. Or maybe you just want some Germans and power-ish armor looking guys, or maybe you just want an alternative to some of the Tyranids. There are options in it, and more. I mean, they do some World War I and World War II stuff. They have a 3D printing Patreon things that add to some of these lines. There is actually a lot of options in this, and it's a good way to get continue to work with hard plastic, because a lot of people are very comfortable with that as opposed to resin. And then I would also say, you can check out Stargrave or Frostgrave for other options. So we'll be closing out with just a little talk on 3D printing. Now, 3D printing, there are a lot of options, and I'm not going to post any of the artists out there because you can find them. But I will tell you one company, and it's called Tortuga Bay. You can go out and you can order from them. The prices would be similar to 40K, but it's not Games Workshop. But there are a ton of different options to get 3D printed spacemans, and you do not need Games Workshop for it. There's a lot of printing services that you can either send the STL into to have printed for you, or we'll simply already have it and print it for you for usually not the worst prices you've ever seen. And the best part about it is there's so many options out there for various flavors, likes, that you really have a hard time seeing how Games Workshop could compete. And this is one of those things that will lead into why I think they are moving towards being an IP farm as opposed to a manufacturer. Or they might just scale back to being a very small scale manufacturer and a IP holder, kind of like what we're seeing with Hasbro today. Oh, as a quick aside, I wanted to also cover two other topics real quick, and that would be paints. A lot of people would be wondering what are alternatives to Games Workshop paints. A lot of people are used to seeing them. And three quick ones I can say, and forgive me if these are not widely available in your area, but there's Vallejo, Reaper, Huge Minis, and AK Interactive, amongst others. I mean, there's Tabletop that's getting into paints. There are a ton of options out there, and those are some that I think would be good. And then lastly, I would like to cover one small aside. So, I know a lot of people have looked at BattleTech, and I think there's an invaluable source to look into, and that would be Razor Fist. You do not need Catalyst games to play BattleTech. And I think his video, which I'm going to link in the description below, is an invaluable resource for people, and one that we in some ways can take advantage of when it comes to 40K, Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, or whatever. We do not need this company, and we need to push into this and say, hey, as a community, we don't have to play the newest stuff. We don't have to buy the newest kit. We have options, and if Games Workshop will not actually cater to what us, the customer, is trying to buy from them, then we will go elsewhere. So, again, thank you for joining me, and have a fantastic night.